So let's redraw, and we'll do it together in case you forgot anything. Quadrant 1 of the unit circle. Quadrant 1 of the unit circle. So get something out, we'll draw that together, kind of walk through, not quite from scratch, because remember we took a whole day to draw this thing. We're not going to do that again, but we are going to do the first quadrant. I know, most of you don't remember. That's okay. That's why we're taking 3 days to review before we test on it. Let's see. There's the first quadrant. And remember, it's not just cosine sine, it's also x comma y. Or say it the other way, it's not just x comma y, it's also cosine of the angle, sine of the angle. And then the ratios and reciprocals and some other stuff. But this first point, 0 degrees, we haven't rotated at all. The x would be 1 and the y would be 0, 1, 0. Just from knowing the coordinates. But that also means that the cosine of 0 is 1 and the sine of 0 is 0. Up here, that'd be 0, 1. I say up here. What angle is that up there? 90. And what is that angle in radians? Yep, because maybe it helps to put all of them on there. 0, and then all the way around is 2 pi. So halfway around is pi, and then half of that is pi over 2. So you kind of have to back up to get to pi over 2.
So is this test going to be like multiple choice or like fill in?
This test is going to look a lot like these worksheets.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. There's usually 3 angles in the middle that we're concerned with. I shouldn't say 3 in the middle because there's only one we're going to call the middle. Let's draw the middle one first. In fact, I'm just going to call it the middle. That's not the official name for it, but that's how we think of it, the one right in the middle. There's 2 others. There's one that's a little less than that. What did we call that one? Do you remember?
Shallow.
That's the shallow angle. And there's one that's a little more than that one. That one's the steep angle. And then every quadrant has a shallow, a middle, and a steep angle. Middle is probably the easiest one. Do you remember what angle in radians is the middle angle? Especially if you're looking at halfway between 0 and pi over 2. And pi over 4. How about the shallow? What's less than pi over 4? Pi over 6. And a little bit more than pi over 4. Yep, pi over 3. And then if we want to know the coordinates of that point, let's jump back to the middle one because that's kind of the easy one. We like that one because the x and the y are the same because it's a 45-degree angle, a pi over 4 angle. So x and y are equal to each other. Do you remember how long those sides are? It's been too long. They're equal, if that helps.
2 pi over 2 or pi 2 over 2. No, it's
You're on the right track.
I can't even think anymore.
They're over 2.
Isn't it
Square root of 2 over 2. And again, they're equal, so that's the easy one. If you get one of them, you get both of them. Root 2 over 2. All right, the shallow angle. This gets a little bit cluttered if we draw all the triangles, but I think we can draw one more. The pi over 6 angle. Let's see, this would be the x distance, is the one I drew in blue. That's a long side. It's longer than root 2 over 2. Square root of 3 over 2. The shorter side, it's got to be less than root 2 over 2. And so the question is it 1 over 2 or is it square root of 1 over 2? What's the square root of 1 over 2? 1/2. So it's either way.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I wouldn't put the square root on there, but it wouldn't be wrong, I guess.
Okay.
I might take off a point for you putting something that's sort of not reduced, because the square root of 1 is 1. So yeah, the shortest sides are 1/2. When we go to the steep triangle, it's just the opposite. I'm not going to draw the triangle in. If you need to, you can. But let's see, the x side would be the short side. That would be 1/2. The y side would be the long side. That would be root 3 over 2. So whether you memorize that, not really my personal preference. You could, and some people do. Or whether you just think through long sides and short sides and medium sides, you definitely have to know the first quadrant. After that, you remember that it all just kind of reflects around, and then you're just thinking about positives and negatives. And that reminds me, you remember the little saying that goes with how we remember who's positive and who's negative? All students take calculus. And what does that mean? What does the A mean? They're all positive. The S means sine is positive, tangent's positive, and cosine's positive. Some people use that all the time. Other people are like, I don't need that, because if it's going backwards, then the X stuff is negative. And if it's going down, the Y stuff is negative. So you can do it kind of just the figure it out way, or you can write all students take calculus and go with that. Either way. Kind of all tells you the same stuff. Okay, let's do a few of these together.
That one worksheet that we turned in at like the very end, will we get that back? Or probably not?
Probably not.
Probably not.
They're all the same, so you're not missing anything. You'll be okay. We're going to do some of these. I'll do some of these, and then you'll do some of these. We'll do some together, and you'll probably have time to finish this if you want to. Here's sort of my process for doing this. I know other people do it differently, and you can just memorize a lot of stuff, but I'm going to draw it first, draw the angle. And when I'm drawing, I'm thinking, I got to get the quadrant right, and I've got to get the SMS right. Any idea what SMS stands for?
Type of messaging.
It is a type of messaging. Yeah, steep, middle, shallow. So looking at number 1, I'm not worried about the sign yet. I'm worried about 5 pi over 3. I want to get the quadrant right, and I want to get the shallow, middle, steep right. So what quadrant is 5 pi over 3 in? It's been a long time. Let's see. All the way around is 2 pi. Exactly. It's almost 2 pi, so it's fourth quadrant. Now, is it shallow, middle, or steep?
It's a
How do you know it's a steep? You're right. The threes are all steep. So I'm going to draw an angle in the fourth quadrant. And if you think about it first, you don't have to, you can strategically draw. You don't have to draw the whole thing. You can just sketch the fourth quadrant. Steep angle in the fourth quadrant. And then I want to think about, do I need the x coordinate, the y coordinate, or both? So sine, which coordinate do I want for sine? That's the y coordinate. So what's the y coordinate for that point?
negative
Yes?
3 square root 3 over 2.
Yeah, because that's the long side, so it's got to be root 3 over 2. It's down, so it's negative. Lastly, I'd say think about whether it's positive or negative, although for some of you, maybe many of you, that sort of takes care of itself in step number 2. If you draw it right and think, down is negative, then you don't have to worry about step number 3. So you can do it without a sketch. Like some people will they kind of think through the same process. Quadrant 4, steep, so sine's going to be negative. Anything root 3 over 3 is negative root 3 over 2. I think drawing the picture is worth it. Forces you to slow down, forces you to think a little bit, rather than it helps you think a little bit, I guess is a better way to say it. Tangent of 4 pi over 3. 4 pi over 3, what quadrant would that be in? 4 over 3. The third. How do you know it's the third?
It's a little bit less.
Then 1/2.
I would say it is a little less than 1.5. I would just say it's a little more than 1. That's a little easier to think about. 4 over 3, it's bigger than 1. So it's definitely quadrant 3. It's over 3, so it's again the steep. So steep angle quadrant 3. Tangent. Tangent. Do I need x or y or both? Both. And what is the tangent? How do I use x and y? Do you remember? X plus y, x minus y, x over y, x times y. There you go. Y over x. Pretty much everybody remembers TOA. So you know it's opposite over adjacent. And then if you'll just connect that y is always the opposite, x is always the adjacent. Okay, so the y coordinate, that would be negative root 3 over 2. The x coordinate would be negative 1/2. Just based on long sides and short sides. And then y over x you can keep it, change it, flip it if you need to, but all of these always have 2 in the denominator, and so the 2's will always cancel out and the negatives cancel out, and we're left with just square root of 3. And I may have said this before. You don't need to memorize this, but some of you will. Any tangent of anything over 3 is going to be root 3. Then you just have to figure out if it's positive or negative. Tangent of anything over 6, like we can skip down to number 8. How many 3's does it take to get to 6? So this one's root 3 over 3. Although I need to be careful. 11 over 6, what quadrant is that in? And is tangent positive or negative in the fourth quadrant? Negative. So that's kind of the tangent 3 trick, if you remember it. If not, It's no big deal. It's y over x. Sometimes you do enough y over x's that you sort of memorize it accidentally. Like you just do enough of them that you start to see these kinds of patterns. Number 3, cosine 3 pi over 4. Okay, if you've got your unit circle out, which a bunch of you do, which is fine, flip it over though. Now try number 3. Cosine 3 pi over 4. So we're thinking quadrant 2. Again, that helps my drawing. If I'll think the quadrant before I start to drawing, I don't have to draw the whole thing. Over 4, we like that one because that's the middle. And the cosine is the x side. And the x side is negative root 2 over 2. Some of you are back. We're 30 minutes into second period and your brain is ready to roll. Try number 4. Cosecant 5 pi over 6. Who does cosecant partner with? Sine, which is y. And then when I say partner, what do I mean? How is it partnered with sine? 1 over or reciprocal or flip thing. So what happens when we flip 1/2? We just get 2. Start to get the hang of it and then go a little quicker. Try number 5. Cotangent 7 pi over 4. And I guess I could go through the keep it, change it, flip it thing if I wanted to. But hopefully you don't need to do that. Hopefully you realize, wait a minute. Something divided by itself is 1. Even if it's weird somethings. Don't forget the negative though. So negative 1. And the last period someone asked so I'll ask you, the tangent, so true or false statement. The tangent or cotangent of anything over 4 is equal to 1. That was a little bit tricky how I phrased that. The tangent or cotangent of anything over 4 is 1.
What if 0 is over?
It's false because it could be negative 1. Oh, 0 over 4. Yeah, you got me there. In reduced form, the tangent or cotangent of anything over 4 is 1 or negative 1. Because it's all the root 2 over 2's. Let's see. Secant, we'd flipped one of those. Let's do number 10. Skip down to number 10. That's an easy one. Let's skip to number 10. 4 pi over 3. What quadrant is 4 pi over 3? Third, because it's a little bit bigger than pi. How do you know it's steep? Over 3. Cosecant. Cosecant means flip. Who's the partner? Flip sine or flip y. That's the same thing. Either way you want to say that. Let's see. The y coordinate there is the long side. So if I flip that, and here's why I picked this one. So I flip it, I get 2 over negative root 3. What do I have to do to that? Yeah, I got to fix it. So 2 root 3 over 3. Hey, you could still leave the negative in the bottom, but most people are going to put the negative in the top. Skip down to number 20. And when you get the answer, you'll know why I asked you to do number 20. So 3 pi over 2, 0, negative 1. Tangent is y over x.
No.
Right, okay, no, that's a no. You can't divide by 0, so that one's undefined.
You were so smart.
If you get a 0 in the bottom, it's undefined. So some of these will be undefined.
I just want to say that I got that right.
Some of you are back in the swing of things, ready to roll.
So how many on our test would you say are like that?
Some of them.
Like, what proportion of the test is like that? Because I need to know.
Some non-zero proportion of them are like that on the test.
Make the entire test like that?
All right, so your assignment is 1 through 30 on this worksheet. Answers are posted. As usual, you've got the packet, so the later worksheets are for later in the week.